Welcome, NBA fans, to my favorite part of the week, you guys' favorite part of the week, we hope, and that's Kings Court, presented to you by www.sports-kings.com. This is the all-access NBA show that we present to you each week. I hope you guys are enjoying us so far. I think this is our 5th episode. Over here is our Sports Kings logo. You can check out all our work there, from anything from basketball, the NBA, like the show you're watching today, all the way to the MLB, NHL, NFL. We just launched 2 new sites, and that's Phoenix Sports Kings. Our guy Brandon here that will speak to you in just a moment is over there writing everything Phoenix Sports. And we also launched on the first Ring Kings, and that's our Sports Kings edition of UFC. We have a little bit of wrestling, the WWE stuff over there, boxing, all that stuff. You can find all the action there. So I'm Andy, I'm your host. I'd like to introduce my panel today, and that's Brandon from Phoenix SK. Brandon, how's it going?
It's going great, Andy. Thank you for having me once again. I love talking NBA basketball, and Phoenix Sports Kings is launched, and it's going awesome. You can find everything Arizona sports there.
Next we have Michael. Michael, how's it going?
Hey guys, I have no coffee left, 4 hours of sleep. The NHL trade deadline's today. I'm multitasking. It's daytime, and I'm not wearing sunglasses. And if anybody gets that reference or a part of it, God bless you. So a lot of the younger viewers won't.
This kid's drinking coffee from a hose this morning. Last but not least, we have Desmond. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing fine. Glad to be on my second one. This has been an enjoyable experience, so I'm ready to get this started.
All right, so without further ado, we'll get it started then. Our first topic that we have slated here is LeBron's 61-point explosion the other night. And if my memory serves me correctly, Desmond, you actually wrote a piece about this for Sports Kings Pass the Pill. That's right. Our basketball branch. I'm plugging away on that. So let's talk a little bit about this. I mean, before we kick right into it and I pass it around to you guys, I'd like to mention that, LeBron, this was his career game. 61 points. He did it on 22 of 33 from the field, and that's good for 66%. He also shot 80% from deep, and that's 8 of 10 from three-point land, which is generally LeBron's weak suit. So let's go to you first, Desmond, since you wrote about it the other night. Let's hear your thoughts on LeBron's game.
Well, pretty much what I wrote. LeBron had his career night. He had the Miami Heat's all-time franchise night in terms of points in a game. He passed not only Glenn Rice, who set the mark with 56, that stood for 19 years. He passed Dwayne Wade as well, who was second at that point with 55. Like you said before, three-point shooting used to be his Achilles heel, and then last year he turned it around, and everybody's saying, well, if he's shooting the three, how else are you going to guard this man? And we see now you can't when he's shooting that three. At one point, he was 8 of 8 from the three-point line. He started getting tired down the stretch in the fourth quarter. The last 2 threes were kind of heaves. They were kind of, prayers throwing it up there. But it was a remarkable night for the Miami Heat. It was a remarkable night for LeBron James. It's almost funny. He could have kept going. He had a minute left. He could have got at least 2 or 3 more shots up. But he was tired. Spo got him out of there. And it was just one of those nights where we're used to appreciating what LeBron does as a facilitator, as an all-around statesman of the NBA. But that night was all about his scoring and his ability. So it was good for LeBron. Congrats to him. And we're never going to see that again.
I mean, as far as facilitating goes, he had 5 more assists than Carmelo Anthony had when he scored 62 on the Bobcats for another time, I guess. 7 rebounds as well. Michael, your LeBron 61-point game.
Okay, great. Whatever, man. I mean, if Carmelo can do it against the Bobcats, LeBron does it against the Bobcats, I don't see a big deal. We're all used to LeBron James being the best player in the NBA. I don't discredit that. I respect LeBron James as an athlete, and I admire the fact that the guy's good at what he does, despite the fact that I'm a huge Kobe Bryant fan. With that being said, this is the Charlotte Bobcats we're talking about here. They are still kind of the dirge of the Eastern Conference underworld. If he would have done it against the San Antonio Spurs, the LA Clippers, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Indiana Pacers, I would be like, okay, hey, I'm impressed. But it's Charlotte. Carmelo can do it. LeBron does it. I don't really. Okay, great. I mean, we got guys there's guys in other sports, the NHL per se. Alexander Ovechkin scores 40 goals a year. He's not even the best player in the league right now. And how many times did Michael drop 60? Mike, you know what, LeBron? Call me when you drop 60 with the flu. But against the actual team, I'm not really impressed with this, guys. I mean, great, good for you, LeBron. I appreciate the fact that you did it, but it's the Bobcats, guys. Come on.
That flu game is the most overrated thing ever. Let's go to you, Brandon, and hear your thoughts on the 61 points from LeBron.
I just gotta say, Michael, that was funny. I gotta kind of back you up in a way because, yeah, it is the Charlotte Bobcats, and I mean, game, set, and match on their franchise. I'm so glad they're going to be the Hornets next year. That being said, though, 61 points in an already tight MVP race. I'm really glad LeBron did this. And Desmond, you were mentioning stats. I don't know if you said this, but he had 21 points in the second quarter, and then all of a sudden unloads for 61. That I will give LeBron. I think it's good. It helps his MVP chances. I'm a little on the fence about the Bobcats thing, but what are you going to do? I mean, it happened. It's not like it was against the, 7 and whatever they are, Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, I mean,
worse.
With that being said, I think the one thing I think a lot of us are that I missed, and I think a lot of people missed because they got all hyped up with the LeBron thing. The Heat still gave up 100 and something points to this Bobcats team. I mean, where was the rest of the team defense? It was like what?
But the thing is we're
1-0, like something. I mean, still,
we're beating this Bobcat to death. Listen, Michael. This isn't 2011. The Bobcats aren't that bad anymore. They're 27-33 out of 15 teams. They're better than 8 in the Eastern Conference. Again, I know that you're down. We're not talking the Bucks like Brandon said. We're not talking the Magic. We're not talking the Sixers. We're not talking even the Celtics or the Knicks or the Cavaliers. There are plenty teams worse than them.
Yeah, but it's a maligned conference this year. I mean, I'm giving him credit.
Understandable, but.
And Al Jefferson had a heck of a night.
You're killing the guy.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
Al Jefferson had a heck of a night.
And Al Jefferson had a big night. But anytime I see 61 points, I mean, from a player, the other stat line, the next best stat line is kind of going to fall short. Not because Al Jefferson didn't do anything great. He had he was close to 40 and 20. But LeBron 61. That's big in a few reasons, I think, because of the fact that LeBron hasn't hit that mark yet. Nobody in the Heat, for all intents and purposes, was the second, third best player in the NBA for many years. Never hit that amount of points, and he's probably our player in the Heat's franchise. So I think it is kind of a big deal. I understand that ESPN is beating this drum all day long, and it's kind of making us all sick of hearing about it. But congrats to LeBron. I mean, he did shoot a pretty awesome percentage on his way to 61 points. You don't usually see that.
He also had 21 in the second half, or the second quarter.
And he also had a big third quarter as well. Yeah. And it was not going to compare it to Kobe's 81, not at all, but those two third quarters, I'm talking about Kobe's third quarter and LeBron's third quarter, two pretty explosive quarters in NBA history. The only difference is Kobe Bryant had an explosive fourth quarter as well. Probably the greatest garbage time fourth quarter of all time because the Toronto Raptors were just like, you know what, we're witnessing history here. Kobe, we're going to try our best, but if you're hitting these shots, you're going to hit these shots. And
and if I can say something too, LeBron even said in his interview, he was like, well, we didn't get stops, so if I wasn't in the game, this would not have happened. Right. That's credit to the Bobcats who we were just beaten with a stick just now.
And just another... I don't know, just to kind of defend the Bobcats on this one, they're playing teams hard this year. I mean, despite they are 5th ranked or 6th ranked on defense, despite being the worst team in terms of defending the 3-point shot. But they are playing hard. They have a bunch of rookies on there that are playing hard, but Al Jefferson is leading the way. But we'll take it with a grain of salt. It is the Bobcats. Melo did the same. Melo had 62. Kevin Durant would probably go out there on a good night and put up 65 if he wanted to. So we just got to keep it in context. But it's LeBron's highest scoring total. We'll let him have this one. I mean, not much. There's not more you can say about that. I mean, he just really put on a big time shooting performance.
Well, that's why it's a big deal. I think it's because it's LeBron's 61 points. I mean, he hadn't done that yet. So, and just to touch real quick on the Kobe thing, because we keep bringing up the Kobe thing. That Toronto Raptors team that Kobe did that against,
horrible.
Their best player was like Jalen Rose.
They were they were terrible. They were like 14 and 27. But and Kobe, I mean, we also talked about. I was impressed with the shooting percentage from LeBron more than anything. The 8 from 10 from deep, the 22 of 32 from the field, as where we can compare that to Kobe's, and that was 28 of 46. He shot 46 times, and he was 7 of 13 from deep. So I feel like, obviously 81 trumps 61 any day of the week. But I think if we can't praise Kobe's game and not praise LeBron's. Let's jump into the next topic, which is Michael's favorite topic ever, as it pertains to basketball.
This is better than Javaris Crittenden right here.
It might be. And this is our boy, my boy, because I love the guy's game, Amar'e Drummond, kind of getting played out a little bit by his ex-flame. I don't know if we can even really call her a flame because apparently the relationship only lasted roughly a week. That's Annette McCurdy. People probably know her as the young teenage girl. She was a star on the Nickelodeon show iCarly. She now has a new show. I'm not even sure what it's called. Sam and something. I do have kids, people. I do have kids. I should know these things. But anyway, she said the relationship lasted a week. We all saw the pictures. Personally, let me just say that I thought it was kind of weird at first because I picture little Sam from iCarly, and my daughter watched iCarly a few years ago, and she was like 14 probably, and then she's dating Amar'e Drummond, who's a young guy himself, but to me, a big 6'11" NBA star seems like he's much older than he probably is, and she seemed much younger. The girl's 21 years old. So she said Amar'e Drummond was a bad kisser, which is kind of an insult, if you're any guy in the world and a girl says you're a bad kisser. But then pretty much right after that happened, some racy photos were leaked of her in, they say lingerie, I call it bra and underwear. But whatever, the girl's 21 years old, so I don't really get hyped up over that. But Amar'e Drummond was quick to defend it and say he didn't do it. We're going to save you, Michael. We'll go to Desmond first. What do you think about this whole Amar'e Drummond being, dissed by this girl who kind of, in the eyes of many, seems like she's like 15?
Well, this is a very, I don't know, I just found this situation kind of funny and weird at the same time because I had to, look up on Wikipedia and make sure that this girl from iCarly, Jeanette McCurdy, was, 21. Because I was just like, wait, how old is she? And I had to look it up. But she's actually older than Drummond, which is, unreal. But looking at the situation in hand, most NBA stars falter. I don't know if any of you remember the alleged mistress who was pregnant with Paul George's child came out, and his game it's dropped. He was shooting under 30%. He wasn't playing right. Amar'e Drummond he's playing well. I mean, he's still putting up 16, 17 points a game, grabbing boards. He had a big time rebounding game against the Knicks the other night. 26 rebounds, 17 points. So if this is a quote-unquote racy situation, it's not bothering him at all because he's playing lights out. He's still one of the best bigs in the game. He's still one of the best young players in the game. So whatever's happening with iCarly, it's not hurting him. Amar'e Drummond is all about his business. He's going out there and crashing the paint, getting boards, scoring buckets. So,
well, I think the biggest difference there is you're talking Paul George potential pregnant stripper.
That's true.
Versus a bad kiss with one girl. I mean, if I got upset over all the bad kisses I had in my life, I'd probably live in the backyard in a hole. Let's go to you next, Brandon. How do you feel about this? This is kind of a fun topic, I guess.
Whoa, I thought we were an NBA show and we sound like we're TMZ. But I don't know. First off, to Jeanette McCurdy's credit, she's actually a really good actress. I don't know. I have to back Desmond up 100% because I feel like this is not obviously affecting him. As harsh as this sounds, basketball has to come first unless it's like a death in the family or something. So he shouldn't let this affect him. I don't think he's going to let this affect him. Amar'e Drummond, if you recall from our past shows, he was my Rising Stars MVP pick. I'm 99% sure I picked him. And just keep on balling, man. Try not to let this get to you. That's my advice. He's just got to let it go over his head and move on. That's my opinion.
I mean, social media is a bad tool sometimes. It's sort of like with the bullying, the cyberbullying stuff, because she said, and I quote, and this just kind of sounds like, and it makes her sound like she's like my every girlfriend I had before 10th grade. She said, and I quote here, I'm going to read this to you. My first kiss with him, Drummond, was after we had gone laser tagging. You know what laser tagging? She explained, I stood on a chair. I sort of went for it. So she's kind of implying that he didn't take the initiative to go for the first move. She said, but it wasn't great. It didn't go great. No sparks. And the mouth, the shapes weren't right. The shapes?
Probably because he's like twice her size.
Yeah, because his mouth is this much bigger than yours, and he has the beard. Drummond, God bless you.
Michael, it reminded me of that Taco Bell commercial where it's like this XXL taco is so big.
It's for Kevin Love.
Yeah, but you're not Kevin. Like the dude
Andre's Drummond's tongue is probably like the size of a cow's tongue. Michael, let's pass it on to you because I know you have some words here. So go ahead.
Oh, Andre. First of all, I don't know what you did to bring this on yourself. Hell hath no fury like a woman's scorn. I mean, first of all, you bro her out by taking her to laser tag Barney Stinson style. I appreciate that. Good for you, Andre Drummond. Now, if I may, personally, the only reason this whole thing happened was because he hashtag WCW'd her on Twitter. Dude, you got to do something that 99% of us regular Joes, including us four guys sitting here on this panel, will never get to do. And that's date somebody that we Superstar Woman Crush Wednesday on. If that were the case, I would have already dated Emma Stone, Lauren Cohen of The Walking Dead, Hayden Panettiere, former University of Delaware women's basketball star Elena Deladonna.
Good man.
Olivia Munn.
Anna Kendricks. Olivia Munn. Ooh. I mean, the Mount Rushmore of Women Crush Wednesdays it would go like, I don't know, the entire Grand Tetons or something.
Did you see what you did there?
Was he like watching the show when he did it though? Like,
I don't even know. The fact that it happened, man. You had a chance.
I hope not.
You had a chance to take a full advantage of something that every guy wishes they would do. In fact, you know what? After the show, check Twitter. Jeanette McCurdy, it's already coming. I'm already calling this. Hashtag Women Crush Wednesday. Call me, all right? Call me.
Call.
Trust me, I'm a much better kisser than Andre Drummond.
And she won't have to stand in her chair.
And
exactly.
He looks like Josh Hartnett, and he sounds like Mel Kiper. Hit my boy up. So
what more do you want? Come on.
So I mean, it does seem kind of silly, and Brandon pointed out that is this TMZ. Once in a while, I think it's fun to tackle some of these things, especially when it's been such a big topic. But probably, if I was Officer Bob Brady from South Park, I would say move along, people. Nothing to see here. So let's jump right into this next topic, and that's the New York Knicks, the most volatile team in the world of any sport. I mean, you could probably find like a team in the back alleys of Istanbul somewhere that's playing dice who has it more together than the New York Knicks at this point. Amar'e Stoudemire, he's questioning, or actually it was J.R. Smith, I think, first questioned the heart of his teammates and stuff like that after they lose every game. So J.R. Smith questioning people. If I were Amar'e Stoudemire, which I'm not, but we apparently share the same brain on this, why is J.R. Smith saying anything? Like, I don't understand how J.R. Smith, that's ridiculous. It's J.R. Smith. So Amar'e, I have a quick quote again here because I'm the quote man today. Amar'e says about J.R. Smith, if you have to look at yourself here before we start making statements, we got to make sure you're playing hard first. Or, excuse me, you've got to make sure you're playing. Carry yourself, and everyone else will follow suit. Until you do it yourself, then you can lead by example. Amar'e Stoudemire did not articulate this very well. It's not really even my reading. I thought for a second that I hadn't had enough coffee yet. J.R. Smith bounced back on Twitter by saying, wow, some things never change. I guess that's speculation. Whether or not that was actually aimed towards Amar'e, probably was. So, I guess I'm going to ask you guys to choose a side on this one. J.R. Smith or Amar'e Stoudemire, who has the bigger point here? We'll go with you first, Desmond.
Well, if anyone knows, has followed me on social media, well, to an extent, they're both wrong, but I can't help but side with Amar'e on this. And the other night, when the Knicks, of course, got beat down to a pulp, I saw a post-game interview with J.R. Smith, and he looks down and out, well, like a player would when a team gets, beat every night or every other night when they're playing a game. And he's giving quotes about, we're not playing hard enough, this or that, we're not focused. This is the wrong guy to be giving quotes about not being focused, and that's exactly what Amar'e Stoudemire is saying. This is the same guy that the same year he won Sixth Man of the Year, he's out clubbing and gets put on blast by Rihanna, another pop culture, fit-in here, for being at the club and chasing her around when he should be getting ready for practice. And this is during the playoffs. I mean, J.R. Smith, I've coined the phrase, is the brick man of the year. He goes out there and shoots bricks on a daily. He does not help out defensively like he should. He scores in spurts. It's usually bad more than good with him. Amar'e, the most we can say about him is his injuries have hampered him, and he's a liability in terms of contracts. Other than that, he's not going to embarrass you off the court. He's not going to go on the court and give you minimal effort. He's not going to be able to be his Amar'e of old, but he's not going to go out there and be J.R. Smith, basically. So I'm going to have to side with Amar'e on this one. J.R. Smith, from the get-go, I said should have been traded. It's obviously too late on that. The time has passed. They're stuck with him. He's playing okay as of late. But, again, shooting 5 of 17 last game, under 30% from the three-point line. I mean, he's not someone who should be giving quotes about we need to focus and we need to play hard. He does need to look himself in the mirror and needs to be like, wow, I'm basically preaching against the player I am.
And Rihanna said that he was thirstier than the Sahara Desert.
Yeah,
it's just hard to get thirstier
than that.
Michael, your thoughts?
Oh, man, thirst. Ooh. That's a deep burn.
Anyway, how thirsty is the Sahara Desert?
I don't know how I could see thirsty as a guy in the Sahara Desert, but not as the desert itself. I mean, I didn't know the desert took on human qualities here. Wow, Rihanna, you have really. Oh, wow, thank you for helping us out with that. But anyways, back to the situation at hand. Look, this whole New York thing. Somebody has to go in and just be like, hey, look, we have got to stop being, walking around with our heads in our butts. I don't know what it is with New York teams. It seems like there's one in every league. You've got that one guy in every league that's just going to completely screw up your situation. It's like there's something in the water in New York. But anyways, as much as I want to side with Amar'e on this one, they're both wrong. Let me tell you why. J.R. Smith, obviously, you've got to start being a better player. Amar'e, you got to stop saying this. Somebody has to do this. Somebody has to. We as a team collectively have to play better. You're the leader. You're the veteran presence in there, Amar'e. You think Melo's going to be, the leader in there? No. Stand up for your guys. Rally your troops. You and Mike Brown. And what are you doing? You're the coach here. You have.
He's running ISO offense.
It seems like you've maybe lost that locker room.
Woodson.
Mike Woodson. Yeah, Mike. Yeah.
You, that guy. Hey, you, coach of the New York Knicks, right here. I'm talking to you. I don't care who you are. It doesn't matter right now because you could put anybody right there, and they're still going to lose that locker room.
Yeah.
Go back to 1976 with Jim McKay and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A guy asked Jim McKay one time, what do you think of the execution of your team today? He said, I'm all for it. I think that's what the New York Brass should do. Execute the entire team, gut it, start over, and build an actual team. Stop getting guys that are me, and get guys that are we. That's what the Knicks need. They don't need these, I, me, my guys. Melo wants to go? Fine, go. Amar'e,
so Michael just essentially told us that they should draft a bunch of French players.
Pretty much. Oui.
My thing is the problem is I don't think that they can gut that team. I mean, it's going to be they can't trade Amar'e. Nobody wants that contract.
No.
I mean, he's the
$90
million man.
His gun, issues and the whole thing is.
Yeah, nobody wants
a complete.
And nobody wants J.R. Smith either.
No, it's a complete cluster.
It's
you know
tore
what
up.
in New York right
They couldn't
now.
even trade him. They
And
tried. They threw his name out there in the market,
Yeah,
and
they
nobody wanted
tried
him.
to trade Felton. Yeah. Well, that's because nobody
It's just a bad
wants to
day
pick up his
Jason
cheeseburger
Whitney,
tab.
I feel
So-
bad for you right now, my brother.
Let's kick this over to Brandon and get his thoughts.
So originally you asked, which side am I on, and I have to go with Michael. I don't think I'm on any side. I mean, Michael and Desmond, you guys killed it. I'm going to go a little different direction on this. If you're going through adversity and if you're going through tough times like the Knicks are with Brandon Felton and now this, and this just seems like little social media and just a little bit of drama. If you're going through adversity and you're a playoff team, that's fine. That means you deserve to at least be in the playoffs and win an NBA championship. If this team is not going to make the playoffs. This team is literally a train wreck, and it doesn't help anybody. I can understand the call out, and I guess on that I have to back up Amar'e. But you guys were right about what you said about J.R. Smith. It's just, I don't know. He just he's a talented player when he can be. But he's not all there, and it just seems like that the whole franchise for this season is in a lot of trouble, and hopefully they can bounce back this summer.
And J.R. Smith better hope that Amar'e Stoudemire does not mistake him for a fire extinguisher in the locker room.
Nice.
No.
It's going to go down. So let's jump into our last topic, and this is, personally for me, probably the most interesting topic. Reggie Miller said the other day that he felt like Blake Griffin was the third best player in the NBA behind Kevin Durant and LeBron James.
What?
That's what I want to do to Reggie Miller. Like, I don't get it. I know a couple of you guys said before the show that you had something to say on this, maybe in defense of this. I love Reggie Miller. I've always liked Reggie Miller as a player, but I don't know how. When my perspective on this is, he's not even the best player on his team, and I don't like his position. So I don't understand how he could be the best player or the third best player in the league. For me, I might lean toward. I haven't really had a ton of time to think about it, but I might lean towards Chris Paul as the third. And I think to say that his teammate Blake Griffin is the third best player in the league is kind of a slap in the face of Chris Paul. Now, I will say that I think Blake Griffin has made tremendous strides. And I think you could argue a case where he might be the best power forward in the NBA, up there with Kevin Love and LaMarcus Aldridge somewhere. But too soon? Let's hear your thoughts. Michael, we'll start with you. Reggie Miller says Blake Griffin's the third best player in the league. Go, go, go.
Reggie, what were you smoking, man? Did you
Blue
go
sky.
out to Colorado or something? Have you been to Seattle lately, Reggie? Is that what's going on? Look, man, I agree with you, Andy, 100%. Reggie Miller, I respected you as a player. I still respect you as a Hall of Famer. You angered a lot of people when you were a player, but you backed it up with a heck of a shot, and now you're angering a lot of people right now. I think I made mention this to you, Andy, before the show. I mean, would Blake Griffin be where Blake Griffin is today without Chris Paul? Would he have this GameFly contract where he's on the commercial all the time and, getting to fly in a cool jetpack? I want to fly in a jetpack. I don't have Chris Paul. Why isn't Chris Paul in there with him? I mean, I get it that Blake Griffin seems to be a little bit more marketable, and he has made tremendous strides. He's come a long way since, that first year coming back from ACL surgery, jumping over a car and all that other good stuff. I mean, but the third best player, I'm only probably a 50% NBA fan because I'm a Lakers fan, and most, if not all, Lakers fans right now are 50% NBA fans. But even, I know that he's not even. Could I sit down right now, if you ask me right now, who's the third best player in the league? Could I tell you somebody without, stuttering? Probably not. But I definitely wouldn't say, Blake Griffin. But, Reggie, I respect your opinion, but I definitely disagree with it.
And I think you can make a case for him to be maybe a top 10, top 15 player. But
Top 10 for sure. But
I just feel like there's just too many guys ahead of him at this point. And to your point a little bit, Michael, real quick before we move on to the next guy here is I do feel like Blake Griffin's game would have transcended to this point without Chris Paul, because I feel like the improvements I'm seeing in his game, he has a couple of post moves. His jump shot has gotten better. He's not just a beat you off the dribble dunker anymore. I feel like that came with hard work in the offseason.
Right.
So whether Chris Paul was there or not, I think Chris Paul makes anybody he plays with better on the court, but I think Blake is definitely putting in the work. Desmond, right to you. What do you think about this?
Well, Blake. I mean, we'll just be simple. But Blake Griffin is not the third best player in the NBA. It is Chris Paul. But surprisingly enough, Blake Griffin's in my top 5.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm going to back it up here. Blake Griffin has played exceptionally well. And Michael, you brought up a good question. Where would Blake Griffin be right now without Chris Paul? I think we got a little sample size of that when Chris Paul was out with injury, and Blake Griffin was tearing this league up. I mean, he was
Fair enough.
going crazy in the paint. He has that little bank shot that Andy just spoke of in terms of the Tim Duncan type of 2 dribbles, take that shot right off the backboard, get it in, or just put it right in. But his post game has improved, which is the number one thing. He was never a great back to the basket guy. Catch somebody with 1 or 2 moves and go back to that move later and then change it up. But he is really playing out of his mind. I think he was second or first. He was in the top 2 of 20 points per game, of a 20-point per game streak, and he was really his scoring has just been consistent, and the way he's going about his scoring has been consistent. So he's definitely in my top 5 right now. Like we said, the scoring is off the charts. The way he's going about his scoring is off the charts. His rebounding is obviously still there. Blocking defensively, he's still there. And in terms of just impact, when Chris Paul went out, his impact on this team, I guess we could give the credit to Doc Rivers as well because he just coached him up this offseason. His impact for this Clippers team, keeping them afloat in the Western Conference, in the NBA period, and, keeping them relevant. I mean, they were looking like the high-flying, good basketball-playing Clippers without Chris Paul. And then when Chris Paul came back, it was just like times 10. So I don't know. Blake Griffin, he's not top 3. That spot is still Chris Paul's. I can't put anyone above Chris Paul other than Kevin Durant and LeBron James. But my top 5 goes as LeBron, KD, Chris Paul, Kevin Love, and then Blake Griffin. So he's not even my best power forward, but he's in my top 5.
So, you kind of spoke to the point I made a little bit. He's, neither of us, Desmond, believe that he's the best player on his team or at his position. So, I feel like in top 5, I think is very generous. I mean, you definitely can make an argument for it. To your other point, Blake Griffin hasn't scored less than 20 points since January 18th, and that was 19 points, so it might as well have been 20. So he's played, a couple dozen games almost since then, I think. Probably like 18 games in that stretch where he has not scored less than 20 points. He had a 38-point game, a 43-point game, a 36-point game in that span. And, no, he's an animal. I really like the hustle and determination to get better. We see a lot of players who are extremely gifted athletes. LeBron James took him a while to develop any sort of game that wasn't predicated completely off of his ability. Dwayne Wade was a player like that. Tracy McGrady. I mean, we have these guys who are exceptional athletes, and they just get by on being so much more athletic, being able to jump higher, run faster than everybody else. It's nice to see Blake take the initiative to get a craft. He has that little drop hook now that's so effective.
Right.
And it's because people honor his ability, his athleticism. He can get away with these other things. The jump shot, too, because you have to play off of him. Brandon, your thoughts on Reggie Miller's comments and where Blake Griffin stands?
Well, all 3 of you, you nailed it in the hammer. As you can see, I'm a huge Blake Griffin fan.
We saw you promoting Blake Griffin back there.
I sort of moved my camera, but first off, I don't know if Desmond mentioned it, because Desmond, you killed it, man, but Blake Griffin is actually a pretty damn good ball handler, and I feel like if he could master that ball handling, he could be a top 5 best player in the league. Now, at first I was a little defensive over this. I was like, what, Blake Griffin's not in the top 5? Then I actually sat and thought about it, and you guys are right, especially about Chris Paul. He's definitely in there for talks of top 5 best power forwards. So if the question is, Brandon, who do you think are the top 5 best power forwards in the league? Blake Griffin has to be in there. He might even be the best power forward in the league. So basically, I feel like if he can master his ball handling, he could be, the top 5 best players in the league. And also, he is having a breakout campaign this year. I don't know if you guys think he should be in the All-NBA first team, but he can be in there. He's gonna have a solid career if he can stay healthy.
Somebody mentioned passing too, and I did a write-up the other day with a video when they played the Pelicans. He did that. I don't know if you guys saw it. He had that spin move, and then he behind the back passed it to Matt Barnes,
Right.
who then actually deferred to Chris Paul, and then Chris Paul back to Matt Barnes. So I guess in a sense, Blake Griffin kind of gets the hockey assist there, even though it was a couple passes. Yeah, I mean, he's phenomenal. And again, I don't really have an answer where I put him. I think between 10 and maybe not between 10 and 15, but top 10 or top 15 somewhere. Definitely he's not in my top 5. Again, I don't disagree with Desmond necessarily. I do disagree with Desmond, but I won't call you wrong. I think it's a little bit subjective there, and I feel you can make a valid argument for it.
Right.
But in terms
right
of
now, I'd probably take him. No, I'd take him over Dwight Howard. With a smile on my face, I'd take him over James Harden. He's just playing great. If you watch his and Brandon brought up a great point with his handling ability. There was a highlight he had the other night where he looked like CP3 in transition play, like with handling the ball, and in it with a lob to like I forgot his center's name, but it just DeAndre Jordan.
That happens a lot too. I think people don't value that.
Yeah, and it's like this has Doc Rivers written all over it. Like this is Doc Rivers coaching him up in the offseason, saying, "Listen, I'm not going to come here and have you be the guy that was just all about sports center highlights and dunking on people. You're going to learn the fundamentals. You're going to get better at basketball because this is the Western Conference. We have to be able to get through the Western Conference if CP3 is not completely healthy, and you have to be the second guy in command making things happen in the post, and he's doing that. So
and he stopped complaining. He was complaining. Remember, he was complaining about hard fouls, and he was flopping too. Was a topic last year and the season before, and that's like ceased to exist. So that's actually a credit to his game as well. I think that's about all the time we have for today. Is anybody? How about this? Let's do a quick final thought, and we'll go right across because I know you guys love these curveballs. Michael, not so much of a curveball this week, but
yeah, well, you take them as they come.
I want to ask everybody their thoughts because this is another topic I was leaning on for this week, and we didn't actually do it. The Houston Rockets. You just mentioned James Harden and Dwight Howard in the same sentence, Desmond, saying you take Blake Griffin over both of them, and I'm not even going to argue with you on that. But the Houston Rockets have kind of been on a tear lately.
Yeah.
And they're starting to look like they could be one of the scariest teams in the West, maybe the scariest team in the West come playoff time because they have so many pieces. I feel like Dwight Howard, when he was in his heyday with Orlando was one of the scarier teams in the league at that point when come playoff time because Dwight Howard's such an X factor. The one thing Dwight Howard always lacked was a James Harden. I mean, he had Hedo Turkoglu had a couple of good years where he could take you off the dribble, he could hit the big shots, but he wasn't James Harden. Patrick Beverley's kind of gotten it together. Chandler Parsons is playing exceptional basketball. I just feel like they have their weapons are stepping up. It's not just Dwight Howard and James Harden. They had a good showing against the Heat last night, albeit LeBron seemed a little fatigued. Your thoughts, Brandon, are the Houston Rockets a legitimate title contender this year?
Well, you asked the perfect question. You asked, are the Houston Rockets a legitimate title contender this year? I think so, because you nailed it. It kind of reminds me of my Phoenix Suns in the way. Their weapons are stepping up. We already know about Dwight Howard. We already know about James Harden. Jeremy Lin's coming off the bench. They want Jeremy Lin coming off the bench. I like Jeremy Lin. Patrick Beverley's been balling. My Phoenix Suns have versed the Rockets, I think, twice this year. And, oh, my goodness, they are really good. And it's like you said, they're on a tear. I think they've been on a couple small winning streaks this year. They've beaten high-quality teams. I like the Rockets, and I don't want to predict where they're going to go in the playoffs because I feel like it's still a little too early, but they will be in the playoffs, and it's going to be awesome.
Desmond, same question to you.
The Houston Rockets, oh, man. It's tough when you think, yes and no. And I don't want to be that one guy that does that. But what bothers me, they did have a great showing against the Heat last night, and they were playing phenomenally. they're playing great right now. They're 8-2 of their last 10. The only thing that bothers me, and shout out to Kevin McHale, the head coach, one of the great power forwards in NBA history. He's coaching them up great this season. Is there are times in the game, and this is why I take Griffin over Harden, where there's a lot of standstill. There's no movement in their offense, and it's prevalent in their passing. They're 21st in assists per game. That's going to hurt you in the playoffs, especially when teams are going to slow you down, like the Spurs, like the Clippers, like the Thunder. Your defenses are going to slow you down from that transition play, and they're going to make you think about your offense. They're going to make you have to get the ball moving, and they have a lot of standstill, kick it to James, let him try a little crossover here. That doesn't work. He tries to step back and then passes it off, and then there's like 3 seconds left, and they don't know what to do. So that's the only thing that worries me. It's a big worry. I mean, you don't want to be an elite team and be 21st in assists per game. But when they get it going, when they move the ball, when Patrick Beverley is hounding the other guards on defense, and Dwight Howard is doing what he does, and when James Harden is doing what he does, they're a legit title contender.
Brandon, same question to you.
You mean Michael?
Or
You're
Michael.
just going to skip me for this one? Are you kidding
Well,
me?
I was going to give Michael a second turn because I couldn't see your picture anymore.
Oh, well, these things happen with updates and all that. But anyways, as painful as this is going to, make me, because I refuse to say a good word about Dwight Howard after the fiasco that he put us through last year. Good God Almighty. Anyway, more power to you, Dwight, for actually finding your niche in the NBA world again. I'm glad to see you're happy. Blah blah blah. That whole ex-breakup stuff. Now, on to the task at hand. The Houston Rockets, as a whole, they've got a legitimate shot to be an NBA champion. Not yet. There you go, Desmond. Yes and no. There, you're not the only guy anymore. So there you go. Yes, they have a shot to make it to the Western Conference Final if they somehow miraculously get past maybe even a San Antonio or an Oklahoma City. If they get to the finals and face a team like Indianapolis who plays suffocating defense, like Desmond brought up, can they get there? I don't think so. Semifinals, definitely. Western Conference Finals is a 50, maybe 60% chance. NBA Finals probably like a 35% chance, though. They're maybe a piece or two away. They're just not there yet. Maybe
that's a pretty good chance
in the draft. But they're just there's too many. The Western Conference is just too deep. Any team right now from maybe like 1 to 6, maybe even 1 to 8 can hurt you right now. I mean, you could see something like a few years ago when Byron Davis led the Golden State Warriors to an upset over the Dallas Mavericks in an 8-1. I mean, you could see that this year. I'm not counting anything out this year in the Western Conference. So I mean, if Houston makes it, great. But it's going to be something to watch. So we'll see what happens. But I don't think they're a title team.
I speak from a place of pain in terms of Dwight Howard too. Desmond, let you make your point that you were just going to make, and then I'll rattle off because we'll wrap it up.
Oh, just one last thing. The teams that make it out of the West have point guards that create, not just for themselves but for everyone else. And although Patrick Beverley, I respect him as a defender, and Jeremy Lin, I respect him for what he is. It's going to be tough in the playoffs when you're going against a Chris Paul or Tony Parker or Russell Westbrook or Steph Curry. Those are guys. Yeah, same thing. I mean, he's someone who creates not only for himself but for his team. The Rockets don't have that, and that's why they have low rankings in assists per game, and that's why they have standstill offense at times. So we'll see what happens.
I have 5 teams in the West or 6 teams in the West, 5 aside from Houston that I really look at as contenders. I think they all might need a little something before they can necessarily be the last one standing. But I look at the Thunder, I look at the Trailblazers, I look at San Antonio, I look at Houston, I look at the Clippers, and I look at the Warriors. Sorry, Brandon, I don't know. I don't think Phoenix can do it. And Desmond, you just made the point. All of those teams, aside from Houston, have not elite necessarily, but above average point guards. I mean, you're talking Chris Paul, you're talking Steph Curry, you're talking Damian Lillard, Russell Westbrook, Tony Parker. Those 5 guys. Those are 5 of the best point guards in the
We
NBA.
could say elite, yeah. We could say elite.
I mean, well, you can say elite, I think, for Tony Parker, Russell Westbrook, and Chris Paul, certainly.
Right.
Steph Curry, is
Steph Curry's
great.
on his way.
Top of that next tier. Damian Lillard's coming. So they might have an issue there. The one thing that I do like about Houston is I feel like of all those teams I just named, the only team that I think is really going to give them trouble is San Antonio. I think they can. It's just because of the half-court sets. I don't think OKC. OKC actually too has some good half-court sets. Dwight Howard has mauled the Trailblazers this year in like 3 games. It's been kind of ridiculous. I don't remember what the numbers were, but at one point it was. I don't know if they played again since I saw these numbers, but he was averaging like 30 and 18 against Portland, which was ridiculous. The Clippers, the Warriors. I think there's too many questions with their defense. Like, I feel like they're going to run. Houston can run. It's going to be that point guard matchup. So those are my thoughts, and my answer is yes, I do think Houston is a legitimate title contender this year, or a legitimate Western Conference champion this year. Been a great show. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to let you guys know that you can go, here's the logo, you can go to www.sports-kings.com. Don't forget the dash or you'll end up someplace you don't want to be. I can almost certainly tell you that. You can find us on Facebook if you just type into your search bar Sports-Kings, and chop it up with us on Twitter @RealSportsKings. For me and my excellent panel today, thank you for tuning in. Till next time,